I was ordained in August of 2015. Literally 0 congregations. I'm the Executive Director of Lutheran Ministries in Higher Education, which is a campus ministry nonprofit, Lutheran and ecumenical here in New York City. And so my call is through the Synod Council. I don't serve a congregation. The most immediate thing that comes to mind, which I'm not sure if it's a moment or not, but is this is my 5th year of ministry, so I just graduated sort of my first class of college students who I had met when they were, like little freshmen, and now they're young adults sort of launched into the world and just they did senior sermons last year, and getting to hear them like articulate their faith, which was really a faith they were claiming for themselves in like a mature way that really was speaking with their own voice, and just seeing them sort of as they graduated leave a sort of a legacy of their own leadership in the ministry. It was just really, really powerful to me because I could see in this like very concrete way why it matters so much. That like the impact that being part of this ministry is having on these students' lives, to see them like start as little teenagers and then become these like amazing, faithful young adults who are going out to like change the world in all these positive ways and be part of the renewal of the church was really, really powerful and really happy, like a happy memory for me. I know that generally speaking, it is oftentimes a little bit harder for women to get calls. They have to wait a little bit longer because some congregations don't want to call women. And then for LGBTQ people, period, and I'm not sure about men versus women, but the wait time is often significantly longer, even much longer for pastors of color, which is a whole nother layer. But so for me, I don't know relative to other people how long I waited, but I know I waited almost a year for my first call, which some people wait 5, some people wait shorter, but for me, there was just this real sense of uncertainty, like would there be a congregation or a ministry site out there that would be able to sort of fully embrace who I am and lift up my gifts. And so it was kind of challenging to be in that unknown place of really feeling called, but also feeling like, is the church going to be able to welcome me and lift up my leadership in the ways that I hope that it can, or that I pray that it can. But I think sort of the flip side of that challenge has been just being blessed, beyond blessed in the ministry site where I am, to feel not only like, oh, I can be who I am and everyone's accepting of me, but to really feel like both being a woman pastor and also being like a queer woman pastor are actually gifts for my ministry, that they're things that help other folks, whether they share those identities or maybe other more marginalized identities, see like, oh, I could be in leadership too, or I could be a pastor too, even if like the church has told me for a long time that that's not possible. And also just to like be able to be fully who you are allows other people to enter into spaces and be able to be vulnerable and be able to be fully who they are, whether that has to do with sexual orientation or talking about challenges related to gender or other stuff. I just think being able to fully be yourself creates like beautiful, holy space for others. I do think for LGBTQ pastors and women that there are more congregations that are not just willing to, but excited to call folks. I think the challenges are still there, and I think that they are particularly there in certain regions of the country or in certain congregations versus like campus ministry. It's like, it's easier to convince a bunch of 18-year-olds not to be nervous about having a queer pastor than a congregation for lots of reasons. But I do think that there are definitely more opportunities. The wait times, I believe, really are getting shorter, and that there's more excitement about the gifts that queer women bring to leadership, or LGBTQ women, gay women, whatever it is. There have been people for decades in this church, women, LGBTQ plus people, who have been working so hard for this change, who've been building the relationships, who've been doing the education, who've been making themselves vulnerable. I think there was a time, like 50 years ago, when many congregations or ministry sites couldn't imagine a woman as a pastor, and then, many who couldn't imagine a woman of color as a pastor, many who couldn't imagine an LGBTQ plus woman as a pastor. And I think the gift of the last 50 years is for so many congregations and ministries among us to realize, recognize, and be blessed by the gifts of leadership that God has given to an amazing diversity of people, to all people. And so I would just encourage everybody in this room, and I'm encouraging myself too, to think even more expansively than we have been about where God is blessing our ministries and where God is blessing our church through people that we might not consider.
An advice that you could specifically give to this next generation of women who are feeling the call on becoming a pastor, maybe the way that they should prepare, if they are still in doubt, what they should do, what will be your best advice for them?
I may have said this before, but I think my best advice would be to build relationships, build friendships, build collegial support systems with all your colleagues, but particularly with other people who may share your identities, whether that's with other women, with other LGBTQ women, with other women of color, to make sure that you find those people who understand what you're going through and can be like a life-giving place of processing and support and partnership and prayer. Keep bringing all of who you are, because that is what God is calling you to do. And that even when that's hard, that's the kind of stuff that creates space for the people who come after you, and that creates space for people to like meaningfully live into who God created them to be. So keep showing up and keep supporting each other. Build relationships with other women, with other LGBTQ people, but also like with folks who don't share those identities, to the extent that you can, all of who you are, because that's like how hearts and minds get changed, right? It's not through like proof texting or like theology, it's through relationships.